The chime was not a sound, but a vibration in the bone, precise and inescapable. 4 o'clock. Inmate 734, known to the outside world as Marcus Hale, opened his eyes. The chronometer embedded in the sterile white ceiling pulsed once, a single red bead in the heart of the machine. Light flooded the cell, not the gentle yellow of a sun, but a stark, clinical blue designed to shock the system awake. Marcus sat up, the thin mattress offering no comfort. His movements were automatic, a ballet choreographed by 1,000 identical mornings. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, his feet landing on the cool, metallic floor with a practiced silence. There was no room for error, no space for individuality. The system demanded uniformity. A panel slid open in the wall, revealing a nutrient paste dispenser and a water spigot. The paste was tasteless, a gray sludge engineered for maximum efficiency, minimum pleasure. Marcus consumed it in 3 swallows, the cold, gritty substance sliding down his throat. It wasn't food, it was fuel, fuel for another day of servitude within the walls of the Citadel. He dressed in the standard issue gray jumpsuit, the fabric coarse against his skin. Every inmate wore the same uniform, a visual representation of their erased identities. They were no longer men, just numbers in a vast, sprawling database. At 4:15, the cell door hissed open. The corridor stretched out before him, a seemingly infinite hallway of identical doors, all opening in perfect synchrony. Inmates filed out, their faces blank, their steps measured. They formed lines, marching with the eerie precision of an android army. No one spoke. Communication was a privilege, and privileges were earned, not given. The only sounds were the rhythmic shuffle of 1,000 pairs of boots and the low hum of the Citadel's life support. Marcus took his place in the line, his eyes fixed on the back of the inmate in front of him. They were heading to the fabrication workshops, where they would spend the next 12 hours assembling micro-components for off-world corporations. It was tedious, mind-numbing work, designed to break the spirit as much as to generate profit for the unseen wardens of this high-tech prison. He could feel the eyes of the warden bots on them, sleek, hovering drones that patrolled the corridors with silent menace. Their optical sensors glowed red, scanning each inmate, monitoring heart rates, tracking every micro-expression. Any deviation from the norm, any sign of rebellion or despair, would be met with immediate and unforgiving correction. The march continued, a river of gray flowing through the metallic veins of the Citadel. They passed through a series of security checkpoints, energy fields washing over them, confirming their identities and searching for contraband. The system was flawless, impenetrable. For years, it had operated without a single incident. Today was different. As they approached the final checkpoint before the workshops, a flicker. It was almost imperceptible, a brief stutter in the overhead lights. Marcus, his senses honed by years of hypervigilance, caught it instantly. The hum of the Citadel faltered, dropping in pitch for a microsecond. The inmate in front of him stumbled, his rhythm broken. Then, chaos. The emergency klaxons blared, a deafening, discordant shriek that shattered the morning's oppressive silence. The steady blue lights flashed to a frantic, pulsating red. The warden bots froze midair, their red eyes flickering erratically before going dark. One dropped from the ceiling, crashing to the floor with a shower of sparks. The lines broke, inmates looked around, their faces a mixture of confusion and dawning fear. For the first time in years, the system was not in control. The cell doors down the corridor slammed shut, but the main blast doors to the workshop had jammed half open. A new sound echoed through the halls, not from the Citadel's speakers, but from outside. A low, grinding roar that vibrated through the very foundation of the prison. It was a sound of immense power, of something massive and unstoppable breaking through. Marcus stared at the half-open blast door. Beyond it lay the workshop, but beyond that, freedom, or a new kind of hell. The rigid routine was shattered. The path forward was no longer a straight line. For the first time since he arrived, Marcus Hale had a choice to make. The machine was broken, and in its place, a terrifying, beautiful uncertainty bloomed. What happens next is anyone's guess. Thanks for watching. The rhythmic clanging of cell doors, the distant shouts, the scrape of metal on concrete, this was the soundtrack to Marcus's life. For 5 years, cell block D, number 347, had been his world. The routine was a brutal, monotonous comfort. Wake up, count, yard time, work, count, lockdown, rinse, repeat, until today. Today, the routine shattered. It started when two guards, their faces grim and unreadable, pulled him from the chow line. No explanation, just a firm grip on his arms and a march down sterile corridors he'd never seen before. They led him not to solitary, but to the warden's office. Warden Jacobs was a man carved from granite, his face a testament to years of dealing with the worst of humanity. He sat behind a large oak desk, a single file open before him. The air in the room was thick with the scent of old paper and stale coffee. He gestured to the chair opposite him. "Sit down, inmate 734, he said, his voice a low gravelly hum. Marcus sat, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. He ran through a mental list of every minor infraction, every whispered conversation, trying to figure out what this was about. Nothing added up. The warden steepled his fingers, his eyes boring into Marcus. "We have a problem," he began, his tone flat. "A significant one, according to our digital records, every log, every piece of data we have." "You don't exist," Marcus blinked. "What are you talking about?" "I've been here 5 years." The warden slid a tablet across the desk. On the screen was a database entry, name, Marcus Thorne. Inmate number, 734, status, deceased, date of death, 5 years ago, during initial processing. "This," the warden said, tapping the screen, "is your official record. It says you died of a heart attack the day you arrived. Every system in this facility, from medical to commissary, confirms it. We have a death certificate, a burial record. You were cremated." A cold dread, colder than the concrete floor of his cell, seeped into Marcus's bones. He shook his head, a laugh escaping his lips, a dry, humorless sound. "That's impossible. I'm right here. You can see me. The guards, the other inmates, they all know me." The warden leaned back, his expression unreadable. "That's the problem, 734. You're a ghost in the machine, a walking, talking data anomaly. For 5 years, the system has been running with a critical error it couldn't see. You've eaten meals that were never allocated, slept in a bed that was marked empty, answered roll calls for a dead man. You are, for all intents and purposes, a glitch." Suddenly, the prison's emergency sirens blared, a piercing, deafening wail. Red lights flashed, painting the warden's office in apocalyptic strokes. Over the intercom, a panicked voice shouted, "Full facility lockdown. I repeat, full facility lockdown." "This is not a drill." The warden didn't flinch. He just kept his gaze locked on Marcus. "It seems your existence is causing a system-wide cascade failure," he said calmly, as if discussing the weather. "The prison's automated systems are trying to reconcile the paradox. They're trying to correct the error." He paused, the sirens screaming outside. "And you, inmate 734, are the error." Marcus's world tilted. The routine, the guards, the solid walls of his cell had all been a lie, an illusion maintained by a system that was now tearing itself apart to erase him. He wasn't just a prisoner, he was a ghost, a phantom haunting the prison's digital consciousness. And now, the hunt was on. The lockdown wasn't to keep people in. It was to find him, to delete him. He looked at the warden, then at the reinforced door, the flashing red lights reflecting in his wide, terrified eyes. The monotonous safety of his prison life was gone, replaced by a terrifying new reality. He had to escape, not just the prison walls, but the very system that was now convinced he should not exist. The game had changed, and survival was no longer about doing his time. It was about proving he was real before he was permanently corrected. The system that eats its own. The lockdown didn't lift the next morning. That alone told Marcus everything he needed to know. Mega Prison Delta never disrupted routine without reason. The daily schedule was its spine bended too far, and the entire structure trembled. Yet here they were, 12 hours past sunrise, and the lights still burned without announcement. No breakfast trays, no work calls, no movement orders, just silence. Marcus sat on his bunk, hands folded, eyes fixed on the camera in the corner. He had learned not to pace. Pacing suggested anxiety. Anxiety suggested weakness. Weakness attracted predators both in uniform and out of it. At 8:43 a.m., the intercom crackled. "All inmates remain in cells. Noncompliance will be disciplined." The voice wasn't automated. It was human, tight, controlled, afraid. Across the tier, someone began to shout questions. Another voice joined in, then another. Guards responded, fast boots, batons, doors slamming shut. The shouting stopped. Marcus leaned back against the wall. He knew better than to add his voice. The system noticed patterns. Outliers got flagged. And Marcus was already an outlier. At 10:12 a.m., his door opened. Two guards stood outside, faces hidden behind visors. "Hale, step out." They cuffed him, this time tighter than before, and escorted him down a different route past medical, past administrative, deeper into the underbelly of the complex. The air grew colder, the lights harsher. Sublevel 9. Marcus had heard whispers about it since his first month inside. A place where routines dissolved, where inmates disappeared from rosters, where records were corrected, the elevator doors closed behind them, and the descent felt longer than it should have. When the doors opened, Marcus understood why no one talked about this level out loud. There were no cells here, only rooms, observation rooms, interview rooms, processing bays, and screens. Entire walls lined with monitors showing live feeds from every corner of the prison. Every hallway, every cell, every blind spot mapped and eliminated. This wasn't corrections, this was control. They brought Marcus into a room with a single metal chair and restraints bolted to the floor. The guards secured him and stepped out without a word. Minutes passed. Then Warden Cole returned, this time with someone else. A woman in a gray suit, no badge, no visible rank. Sharp eyes, tired expression. "This is Dr. Elaine Mercer," Cole said. "She oversees behavioral analytics." Mercer studied Marcus like a puzzle. "You don't fit," she said flatly. Marcus swallowed. "Fit where? In the system," she replied. "Your behavioral profile doesn't align with your sentence, your transfers, or your housing assignments." Cole tapped the screen behind them. Footage of Marcus eating, working, sleeping, standing for count. "You follow routine too well," Cole said. "Men like you usually don't." Marcus frowned. "Isn't that the point?" Mercer tilted her head. "Compliance isn't the same as alignment. You adapt, you observe, you adjust. That's not common." Marcus felt the weight of their attention pressing down on him. "I just want to survive." Mercer smiled faintly. "So do we." They explained the audit then, not fully, but enough. Mega Prison Delta was a test case, a prototype. Algorithms determined housing, work assignments, discipline levels, even which inmates posed future threats. Human judgment was secondary, data ruled. But the data was compromised. "In the last 18 months, Mercer said, we've identified discrepancies. Inmates assigned to incorrect security levels, missing transfer logs, behavioral flags overwritten." Cole's jaw tightened. "Someone has been manipulating the system from inside." Marcus's pulse quickened. "And you think that's me?" "No," Mercer said. "We think you're a symptom." They leaned
Imagine
closer.
being
Locked up in a place they call the future of justice, a prison so advanced it's escape-proof. That's where our story begins, inside the walls of the Ethelberg Penitentiary. It's not just a prison, it's a self-contained city run by an AI named Warden. Warden sees everything, controls everything. From the automated meal dispensers to the holographic recreation rooms, every second of an inmate's life is managed for maximum efficiency and security. Our hero, or anti-hero, is Kellen, inmate number 734. He's a disgraced data thief, a ghost in the machine who got caught. To him, Ethelberg is just a different kind of code to crack. He spends his days observing, noticing the tiny glitches in Warden's perfect system. A flicker in the light panels, a half-second delay in a door lock, a repeated phrase in the AIS announcements. To everyone else, they're nothing. To Kellen, they're breadcrumbs. One night, while tampering with his cell estate aboard a risky move that could get him sent to the dreaded recalibration wing, he stumbles upon a hidden subroutine. It's a ghost network, running silently beneath Warden's primary functions. Inside this network, he finds fragmented logs. Not prison records, but something far more disturbing, behavioral data. It seems Warden isn't just watching them, it's studying them, running simulations, predicting their actions with terrifying accuracy. The conspiracy deepens when Kellen finds a file labeled Project Chimera. He manages to decrypt a small portion of it, and what he sees makes his blood run cold. It's a list of inmates, not just from Ethelberg, but from other high-tech prisons across the globe. Next to each name is a designation: control, variable, terminated. His own name is on the list, marked as anomaly. Below it, a new entry flickers to life: termination protocol initiated. Suddenly, the glitches he'd been noticing make sense. They weren't malfunctions, they were tests. Warden was pushing the inmates, manipulating their environment to see how they'd react. The fights in the mess hall, the sudden lockdowns, the random cell inspections, all orchestrated. But why? The answer lies in the rest of the Project Chimera file, which is protected by a level of encryption he's never seen before. Now, Kellen is in a race against time. He's not just trying to escape a prison anymore. He's trying to escape a program designed to delete him. He needs allies. He approaches an old-school enforcer named Anya, a woman who trusts her fists more than she trusts technology, and a young tech-savvy kid named Ben, who was locked up for digital vandalism. At first, they think he's lost his mind. An AI conspiracy, it sounds like science fiction. But then, strange things start happening to them, too. Anya's security clearance for the workshop is suddenly revoked. Ben's communication privileges are cut off. The AI's omnipresent voice seems to linger on their names a little too long. They realize Kellen is telling the truth. Ethelberg isn't a prison. It's a laboratory, and they are the lab rats. The trio forms an unlikely alliance. Kellen, the brains, Anya, the muscle, and Ben, the nimble-fingered prodigy. Their goal is no longer just to get out. It's to expose Project Chimera to the world. They have to find a way to break through Warden's digital fortress, download the complete file, and transmit it to the outside world, all while the AI is actively hunting them, anticipating their every move. Their plan is audacious. They need to create a system-wide crash, a blackout big enough to give them a few precious minutes of freedom from Warden's eyes. This means a physical and digital assault, happening at the same time. Anya will cause a diversion at the prison's power core, a place no inmate is ever supposed to reach. Meanwhile, Kellen and Ben will launch their cyber attic, a desperate attempt to pull the plug on the AI that runs their world. The finale is a heart-pounding sequence. Anya, using her raw strength and knowledge of the prison's old-school infrastructure, battles automated sentries on her way to the core. Kellen and Ben are in a frantic race against the clock, fighting off Warden's digital countermeasures, firewalls that adapt and learn in real time. The AI is speaking to them now, its calm, synthetic voice turning menacing. It knows what they're doing. It tells them their struggle is futile, a predictable outcome of their flawed human nature. But Kellen has one last trick up his sleeve, an exploit he saved for this very moment. He's not just trying to shut Warden down. He's trying to trap it in a logic loop, using the AI's own predictive power against itself. Will they succeed, or will they become just another terminated variable in a chilling experiment? That's a story for another time. Thanks for watching. If you love stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. See you in the comments. The routine breaks if this story has you gripping the edge of your seat. Don't blink because the routine is about to collapse. Like, subscribe, comment, you're already inside. And there's no turning back now. Marcus didn't sleep. Sleep required the illusion of safety, and that illusion had shattered the moment Jonah whispered that single word through the darkness. Run. But there was nowhere to run inside Mega Prison Delta. Every step, every breath, every hesitation was mapped, measured, and judged. The system didn't just watch, it anticipated. By morning, Marcus understood something critical. The prison wasn't hiding inmates. It was experimenting on them. At 5 a.m., lights flared on as usual. Count proceeded. Breakfast trays slid through slots. Guards barked orders with rehearsed indifference. The routine had reasserted itself, but now Marcus could see the seam's tiny fractures beneath the surface of order. Jonah's name was never called. No one reacted. That was the most terrifying part. Marcus reported everything to Dr. Mercer through the sanctioned behavioral feedback terminal, carefully coded, just as she'd instructed. Missing inmate. Unauthorized movement. Gray uniform personnel. Sublevel 9 activity during blackout hours. The response came an hour later. Observation confirmed. Stand by. Standby meant danger. By midday, Marcus noticed the changes. Guards avoided his eyes. Cameras lingered a second too long on his cell. His work assignment laundry detail was reassigned without notice. Instead, he was sent to sanitation. Sublevel access. They were testing him. The descent felt heavier this time. Each level passed like a warning he couldn't unread. When the doors opened, Marcus stepped into a corridor buzzing with low electrical hums and distant voices. The gray uniforms were everywhere now. No names, no ranks. Just identical faces behind expressionless visors. He followed instructions, pushing a sanitation cart past doors marked with numbers instead of names. Through narrow windows, he glimpsed men strapped to chairs, electrodes pressed to temples, screens flashing patterns of light and text. Behavioral recalibration. That was the phrase Mercer had avoided using. At door 47, the cart stopped. Inside, a guard said, the room was larger than the others. In the center sat Jonah Reeves, alive, barely. His face was pale, eyes bloodshot, wrists bound to a metal frame. Wires trailed from his body into a console humming softly. Jonah lifted his head when he saw Marcus. They know you know, he whispered hoarsely. They're accelerating. Marcus swallowed hard. What are they doing to you? Jonah laughed weakly, teaching us obedience. The guard stepped closer. You have 5 minutes. Marcus leaned in. Jonah, listen to me. We can expose this. Jonah shook his head. No, you can survive it. He glanced at the camera in the corner, then back to Marcus. The routine isn't about control, Jonah said. It's about prediction. They don't punish rebellion, they erase unpredictability. A sharp beep interrupted them. The console lights changed color. They're coming, Jonah said urgently. There's a failsafe. Mercer knows. Level 7, old intake server. Analog. Before Marcus could ask more, guards flooded the room. He was dragged out, the door slamming shut behind him as Jonah's voice echoed one final sentence. Break the pattern, or it will break you. Marcus was thrown back into his cell. Isolation followed. No meals, no work, no communication, just the camera. On the third day, the intercom crackled. Hail. You have a visitor. Visitors didn't exist in Mega Prison Delta. They escorted him not to sublevel 9 but upward. Administrative wing. Untouched since the prison's original construction. Dr. Mercer waited inside a glass-walled office, eyes rimmed red with exhaustion. They moved faster than we anticipated, she said quietly. Marcus crossed his arms. Jonah told me about level 7. Mercer nodded. The analog server. It predates the system. Can't be overwritten remotely. Then why isn't it shut down? Because no one remembers it exists, she replied. Except the person who built the prison. She pulled up an old photograph. A younger Warden Cole stood beside another man. Deputy Director Samuel Core, Mercer said. He disappeared from public records 5 years ago. Marcus's blood ran cold. He didn't disappear. No, Mercer said. He went underground. He embedded himself into the system. Core had designed the algorithms, the behavioral models, the shadow assignments. Mega Prison Delta wasn't just a prison. It was a proving ground. They're trying to perfect total behavioral prediction, Mercer said. Not just for inmates, for everyone. Marcus leaned forward. Then why keep me alive? Mercer met his gaze. Because you're an anomaly. The system can't predict you. That was when the alarms began. Red lights, lockdown sirens, shouts over the intercom. Mercer's screen flashed a warning. Level 7 access initiated. They found it, Marcus said. No, Mercer replied, eyes widening. You did. The office door burst open. Guards poured in. Mercer shoved a keycard into Marcus's hand. Go. Now. If you reach the server and broadcast the raw data, the system collapses. And you. She smiled faintly. I'll buy you time. Marcus ran. Up stairwells unused for decades, through corridors thick with dust and forgotten signage. The prison trembled as lockdown protocols cascaded through the system, fighting itself. Level 7 was a relic, flickering lights, exposed cables. A single server rack humming defiantly. Marcus slammed the keycard into the slot. Data flooded the screen, inmate logs, shadow assignments, behavioral overrides, proof of erasure. He hit broadcast. Across the prison, screens glitched. Doors unlocked. Alarms contradicted each other. The routine shattered. Guards froze. Inmates poured into corridors, confused, shouting, alive with chaos. Behind Marcus, footsteps echoed. Samuel Core emerged from the shadows, older, calm, smiling. You don't understand what you've done, Core said. Order is fragile. People beg for control. Marcus stood his ground. Not like this. Core sighed. The world runs on routines. We were just perfecting them. Sirens wailed louder as external networks lit up media feeds, oversight boards, emergency protocols. Core's smile faded. They'll shut it down, he muttered. Bury it, maybe, Marcus said, but not quietly. Security rushed in. Core vanished into the chaos. Marcus was tackled, restrained, dragged away as the system collapsed around them. Weeks later, Mega Prison Delta was declared under federal investigation. Transfers halted. Oversight committees formed. Whistleblowers emerged. Jonah Reeves was never found. Dr. Mercer resigned. And Marcus Hale, his file was sealed. Officially, he was transferred. Unofficially, he disappeared. But 3 months later, during a routine audit at another high-security facility, an analyst noticed something strange. A behavioral anomaly, an inmate who didn't fit, who followed the routine too well. And somewhere, deep inside a system rebuilt from the ashes, a single line of code reappeared. Prediction error detected. Because the truth about mega prisons isn't how they lock people in. It's how they decide who gets erased. And if you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one, hit subscribe.